Hello everyone, I'm Natalie, licensed city guide in Krakow, Poland. And today I'm taking you on my free walking tour in Krakow Old Town. No ticket required, no jet lag and no muscle strain. Just tune in. Since my free walking tours in Krakow Old Town are getting increasingly popular, tourists encourage me to transcribe my talks into videos and keep them registered in public domain. In these videos, like in my free walking tours, I will cover a bit of everything: history, culture, geopolitics, as well as personal stories that make Krakow and Poland so unique. During my 12 years in London, I have gathered a large library and I have done extensive historical research, also going through the National Archives, that allowed me to broaden my view on European history and look at the Polish history from a different angle. That's why I value traveling so much. Getting out of your comfort zone gives you often a different perspective. So I am now inviting you for a historical tour with NATALIE Magnetic Guide. Let me start with a short introductory story explaining why Krakow is the most important town on the map of Poland. Today, when you arrive in Krakow, it looks like a nice, medium-sized European town. Cozy, charming, manageable. But in the 16th century, it was the capital of the largest empire in Europe. This empire stretched from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, encompassing a large part of present-day Poland, Lithuania, part of the Baltic states, Belarus and Ukraine. It was called the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, or in short, the Commonwealth, and in the Polish language, Rzeczpospolita. It was huge, powerful, and surprisingly diverse. Different cultures, religions, languages. Many Jewish people settled here, escaping persecution elsewhere, and nearby Casimir district in Krakow became a major cultural and religious center of the Jewish community. The Commonwealth was a class society ruled by a king and a privileged noble class that constituted about 10% of the population. Krakow was a royal capital of that empire. It was a trading town, a university town, and place of coronation of Polish kings and queens. In the 16th century, Poland and Lithuania were ruled by the Lithuanian dynasty, the Jagiellonian dynasty, which solidified the alliance between the two nations. During the reign of the sixth king of this dynasty, Ziggismund the Alt, the famous Wawel Castle in Krakow, now visited by circa 3 million tourists every year, was upgraded and rebuilt in the Renaissance style, making it the best example of the Renaissance architecture north of the Alps. Meanwhile, the son of Ziggismund the Alt, Ziggismund Augustus, became most famous for marrying for love. Such phenomenon was virtually non-existent in royal families, as they traditionally functioned as business deals designed to solidify alliances or establish peace between nations. So Sigismund's first marriage to Elizabeth, who came from a powerful Habsburg family, was arranged by the noble class. And the marriage wasn't a happy one. Sigismund did not find Elizabeth attractive and looked for a mistress. During his stay in Lithuania, he fell in love with a young widow, Barbara Radziwiłł, daughter of a great Lithuanian magnate. When Sigismund's first wife Elizabeth died from an epileptic attack, and shortly before taking the crown from his deceased father, Sigismund secretly married Barbara. You can easily imagine the scandal that had erupted in the royal court. Polish nobles and members of parliament, as well as King's mother, Bona Sforza, were outraged by the monarch's actions, urging him to nullify the marriage. The objections arose not only because of the secret wedding without the nobility's consent, but also because of the now rising influence of the Radziwiłł family. Despite all this pressure, the king stood his ground and said something surprisingly modern: that people should be free to love who they want. Bold move for the 16th century, isn't it? Polish nobles relented eventually, but not long after the wedding, following a period of illness, Barbara passed away. There were persistent rumors that she was poisoned, and some implicated her mother-in-law, Bona Sforza. The king fell into grief. Expecting to leave no legitimate heir, he decided to change Poland constitutionally by uniting Poland and Lithuania into one state, changing hereditary monarchy into elective one. One country, one ruler elected by the nobles. This system of elective monarchy, quite unique on European political scene, eventually created a lobby system where powerful states lobbied for their own candidates for the Polish crown. And this, in effect, would weaken the royal power and become one of the main internal reasons for the fall down of the Commonwealth. Most importantly, however, the geopolitical situation started to change, and this was linked to the religious wars in Europe. It is impossible to understand what happened in Europe in the 20th century and how the power and alliances were shaped without a reference to the religious wars in Europe. So, in the 16th century, we have a split within the Roman Catholic Church. The merchant class, which was growing in power, started to subsidize a Protestant movement in order to cut ties with the Roman Catholic Church and establish the church that would be subservient to the interest of the state. This was part of the power game. The church was very strong at the time, had large influence on social and political life, and was the largest landowner in Europe. At the same time, the clergy was often abusing their power, and that abuse was an argument used by the German monk Martin Luther to argue that the Roman Catholic Church needed to be reformed. To cut a long story short, eventually two camps sprang up, the Protestant and the Catholic camp. In the Protestant camp there were Duchy of Prussia, Dutch Republic, England, some Germanic cities and lands, and the Scandinavian states. So largely the states where merchant class was very strong. In the Catholic camp there were Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, France, Spain, Austria, and the Papal States. Steadily, through a series of wars, but also a system of Masonic lodges established across Europe, the Protestant camp would be winning this game of power, diminishing the role of the Roman Catholic Church and the Catholic states in Europe. And they would cooperate and build the power of Russia to achieve this aim. This anti-Catholic alliance of England, Prussia, Dutch Republic, and Russia was known by the initiated as the Northern Alliance. So, in the 17th century, Poland started to feel the pressure from the conspiring states of the Northern Alliance. Polish nobles had to fight a series of defensive wars against the Russians, the Swedes, and also the Turks, who were advancing north, and additionally the Cossacks, who rose on the Ukrainian lands against the Polish lords. For a long time, the Poles managed to win these battles thanks to superb military formations created by one of our best elected kings, Transylvanian Prince Stefan Batory. He turned light hussar cavalry formation, originally Serbian and Hungarian mercenary cavalry, into a heavily armored cavalry that turned Poland into a great military power. His hussars adopted metal-plated body armor and became equipped with the 18 to 21-foot-long lance, much longer than their Western equivalents. The hussars' charge started at a slow pace and in a relatively loose formation, gradually gathering pace and closing ranks before striking the adversary in full force in knee-to-knee formation. During victory parades, these hussars carried characteristic wooden frames with eagle, ostrich, swan or goose feathers, hence their name, winged hussars. The hussars make spectacular achievements, winning over the Russians, the Swedes and the Turks. But after a series of wars, and especially after the Swedish invasions, Polish economy was virtually bankrupt. The largest noble landowners, the magnate class, were interested mainly in protecting their own estates, turning the Commonwealth into a federation of small republics, each with its own army and foreign policy. Internally, the Commonwealth was a dysfunctional state, with a weakening authority of the king, internal quarrels, lack of the effective taxation system, and constant breakups of the parliamentary sessions with one dissenting vote, infamous liberum veto. Members of the Northern Alliance took advantage of these weaknesses, both of Polish political system and of Polish character. By corrupting members of Polish nobility, they placed Saxon dynasty on the Polish throne, whose role was to deplete Polish treasury and sabotage reforms. Armed associations were formed to fight growing Russian interference, but these were eventually quashed by the Russian troops, which simply outnumbered them. Prussia, Russia and Austria ganged up on Poland and annexed some of its land in First Partition of Poland 1772. Austria, albeit a Catholic country, opportunistically joined this action. Last elected king of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Stanisław August Poniatowski, attempted to pass reforms, taking part in the proclamation in the Polish parliament of May Constitution, first codified constitution in Europe. But it was too little too late. More lands were seized by Prussia and Russia in second partition of the Commonwealth only 20 months later. At the same time, revolutionary moods came to Poland from France and North America. A great hero of the American Revolutionary War, general, military engineer and professional revolutionary Tadeusz Kościuszko announced a rebellion in Krakow. Soon thereafter, he granted civil liberty to the peasants to gain extra force to fight against the Russians, but he too would be eventually defeated by combined armies sent from Prussia and Russia. Thus, the game was over for Poland. The Third Partition in 1795 wiped out the once powerful Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from the map of Europe for the next 123 years. After the fall down of the Commonwealth, its capital Krakow was in a miserable condition, and it would have to be restored, like the entire country. What role the City of London had in the rise of Prussia and Russia? Why the British astrologer and key advisor to Queen Elizabeth, Dr. John Dee, visited Krakow in the 16th century? Well, that's for the next time. So stay tuned, leave your comments, and if you prefer history with actual walking, join me on my free walking tours in Krakow Old Town. Trust me, it's much more fun.